Hey,
Welcome.
dearly
Kat is
beloved.
already making me laugh.
I'm already in the mood.
I was like, wait for the silliness. Wait till I start. Wait for the silliness. And she goes, dearly beloved. Anyway, hey, welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast. How
Hey,
are you,
everybody.
everybody? We've got Janine and Kat, and we have two special guests today.
All right,
We're going to
episode
talk about
18.
something we talk about a lot, which is insulin resistance and PCOS, and frankly, obesity, and even binge eating disorder. And I'm telling you this now, in case you have little ears in the room, or in case this is triggering to you in any way, please consider that before we move forward, okay? But right now, I'm not sure of the title, but I think it's going to be House of Cards of Insulin Resistance or something like that. We'll see. I'll make it cute and in the corner somewhere. But anyway, hey, if you, this is the first time you're listening to us, this is episode 18. Where you been? We're so glad. We're so glad you found us. Yay.
18.
Yeah.
18. I know.
If you just found us, welcome home.
And I still feel like we haven't even talked about all the things yet. I feel like this conversation could continue forever. I guess we'll find out.
It can.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So after we have like after hours, like, which is like after the call, we kind of just sit and like dish. And I'm like, every time we do, we have like these really good conversations. I'm like, son of a, we should have recorded that. People would have loved that. So we'll figure that out. We'll do that on our lives.
Yeah.
If you're new here, again, like I mentioned, welcome. This is a podcast that was born out of the TikTok community, the GLP1, I would say Mounjaro, if you will, community that people live with, I would say issues with obesity and related diseases or related disorders. And we all are just a very big supportive community there, not without our drama, but it's great. Everything's fine. But that's what we do here. We are really giving people space to be able to tell their stories. It definitely got to a point where we felt the media were taking these stories and cutting them and spicing them and basically tailoring them to fit their own agenda. And it just wasn't right because these are testimonials and life-changing things that are happening to people. So people deserve to have their space and they deserve to not feel alone. They deserve to know it's not their fault. And so that is our mission. That's what we're looking for. We want affordable access to these medications for everybody that can benefit from them. So, but anyway, in terms of me, I take Mounjaro. I've kind of taken all of them at this point to treat my insulin resistance and obesity.
You got it all.
Anxiety, ADHD, all the things. It's been incredible for me. It's been completely life-changing. I'm 65 pounds down. I didn't add my current 5. I am 70 pounds down. I am 70 pounds down. Woo! Realization on the internet. Whew, that's cool. All right, back to the show. Anyway, so it's very cool. Very excited. I'm shooting for 65 more. I guess technically 60 now. Yay. Yeah. So anyway, that's how it's going. So Kat, tell us about you. Enough about me. I'm going to drink my Stanley. You tell me the things.
All the things, dearly beloved. I don't know why that's my thing. Don't know why that's my thing today.
I'm drinking.
I don't know why. Hey, I'm Kat Carter 7 on TikTok. Right there.
Right there.
Right there.
Not going into it right there.
There you go. I am Kat. I'm a Libra.
I like long walks.
Yeah, I like long pina coladas, and I have half a brain. Anyway, I have lost 63. I'm finally breaking the spell. 63 pounds on Mounjaro. I know that Kim and I had this conversation last week, and we can talk about it a little bit later. But I kind of like the way I look now, but I know I could lose more. So right now I'm in that middle space where I like being a little, soft. So a little soft.
Oh my goodness.
So I'll leave this up to the community. Like, what do you think? Because I'm starting to like I like looking at the stag, like, because that means that's like dues. Like, I put in work to have these wings.
Battle scars.
So I'm gonna leave this up to the community. What do you think?
Okay. Vote.
What do you think? What do you vote? What do you vote for? I would like to lose a little more, but really, I'm because I'll get over this really, really fast so we can get to the journey. I struggled with obesity all my life, binge eating disorder. I feel like I definitely was in that insulin resistance, eating disorder, and environment sort of situation.
Yeah.
I was raised. My mother was my first. I just hate saying this on publicly, but
It's
all the time.
it's
My mom
not
was
like
my
we all
first
haven't felt
bully.
it.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
My mom was my first bully, and it
Yeah.
was always about weight, and still is. So anyway, well, anyway, I digress. So anyway, so I've learned to really like and enjoy being kind of fluffy. I just got
Yeah.
a little bit out of hand, and I started using Mounjaro, and
Now
it's
you're
helping
feeling
the
good?
binge eating disorder. I've struggled with that forever.
Mhm.
But that's me in a nutshell because I
Yeah.
am pretty
Thanks,
much am a nut.
nutshell.
I am a
Love you.
nutshell.
Love you, nutshell. What's your
Dearly
name? What's
beloved.
your nutshell? Tell us your nutshell. That's what we should call them.
Okay,
Instead of
follow.
intros. No.
Look, following you two, I'm like, those intros were kind of epic. But hey, look. Hey, I am just a little chocolate girl from Washington D.C., and I struggled with obesity late in life. So I was one of those that thought that, oh, I'm getting older. It's just natural. Well, kind of not the
Yeah,
way that it
definitely.
was happening. So I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, as well as I have an autoimmune disease. So I have something called Sjogren's syndrome. And I'm having a little episode today,
Oh
but
no.
yeah, but it's not bad. That's one of the miracles of Mounjaro.
Yeah.
Is now we're seeing now it's helping to treat the symptoms of my Sjogren's syndrome. Who
Yeah.
knew? But I started Mounjaro. Today is my 6-month anniversary.
Oh,
I
good for
did
you.
my first
Congratulations.
Yeah.
injection January 17th. And today is July the 17th. So
My
this is when we're
goodness.
recording. So I'm so excited. I am currently down 38 pounds.
That's incredible. Yay,
Woo!
Journey.
I'm currently down 38 pounds. And I'm like the odd woman out because it's all been done on low dosages.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
not
am
odd
one of
woman out. Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah, but I I'm one of those slow losers. Type 2 diabetics lose a little slower,
Yep.
and that's okay. But I am 38 pounds down. My A1C is now at 5.6.
That's
So I'm
awesome.
scheduled, thank you. I'm scheduled to get labs done. I'm still in the pre-diabetic range. So
Yeah.
my A1C is kind of
It's okay.
holding on for dear life because it doesn't want to go anywhere,
Yeah.
it doesn't want to get lower, but that's okay
Yeah.
though. But overall health, I feel the best that I felt in years.
Yeah.
And please don't think that because you're getting older that you naturally have to gain weight. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that way, as many times we have metabolic disorders that we don't
Yeah.
even know about.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
true. Different things seem to
Hmm.
cause metabolic disorders. Like there's so many different moving parts, and that's why you need a professional, to walk
Yes,
you
Yeah.
through this. Yes. And we will have one on
definitely.
today to talk to us.
Yes.
Just to
And you know
mhm.
what? Before we start,
Yep.
plugs, plugs,
Oh,
Oh,
plugs,
plugs for merch. Okay. So go to the
merch.
but
merch store, the
Mine's the
plus
rosy
side.
one. You can't really see it, but it says Rosie shows up.
Oh, the Rosie shows
Let
up
me
when you have
see
one.
if I
And
do
the Rosie shows up when it's not
this.
yeah,
there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We're like,
If you
okay.
don't know, Rosie O'Donnell was on episode 13 of our podcast, and she was kind enough to approve some art so that we could do some
Awesome.
shirts to promote the
Awesome.
show because
Yes,
she's amazing and
she
incredibly
is.
kind and believes in what we're doing, which is fantastic. This is the lovely these
This water
shirts, but
bottle
we
is
also have
awesome.
water bottles and like all the things. So go and check it out because those proceeds go to keep the lights on for the plus sides to help us. I've just taken some of the money that people were able to donate and some that did for merch stores to actually pay to promote one of the episodes to get as loud as possible. The whole goal has always been to get loud and change things with affordable medication for everybody. And so
Yes.
that's what we really want. The accessibility and affordability is a big problem. And we'll talk about that today. So now that we've like run our mouths and got everything all together, let me tell you what we're going to talk about. Okay. So our community guest today is Lisa. And I'm going to invite her in to give her the space that she deserves to be able to tell her story. Here we go. Hi, Lisa.
Howdy, Lisa.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful
It's
where you
beautiful where you
are.
are.
It
Yeah.
is a beautiful day. I'm in the Pacific Northwest on an
Oh.
island about an hour and a half north of
Ooh.
Seattle. So
Oh, lovely.
Oh.
it's
Oh, it's so
Oh my
beautiful there.
gosh.
it's
Seattle
dreamy.
rains constantly. Yes.
Ah.
I
Wow.
love the Pacific Northwest. It's
Like
absolutely
it literally looks like a painting behind you. That sky. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Sorry
Yeah.
for our
Beautiful.
listening audiences that can't see it. Go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Go to the
It's
YouTube.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're super glad to have you here. Everybody knows we're going to be talking about PCOS, insulin resistance. I've mentioned that we are going to talk about binge eating disorder, but this is an opportunity for you to tell your story. It's unfiltered, uncut. We get emotional here, and it's
Yeah.
okay. We just breathe through it, and we're in the moment together because we have a lot of healing to do too, don't we? Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll do it
Definitely.
together. We'll do it together.
Good. Good.
Oh yeah.
So do you want me to tell the whole, like my
You
whole
can tell me
Mounjaro
anything you want to. You can tell us anything
journey?
you want to. Yes.
Well, like a lot of people, I'm almost at a year. August 4th will make a year since I took my very first Mounjaro injection. I spent July on Ozempic, and we just didn't get along well. And so I actually was on TikTok one day, and I saw somebody had made a transition from Ozempic to Mounjaro, and I thought, gosh, I wonder if that would work for me. And I was in a pretty dark place. I had really given up on my health and my future, and I was in a state of just constant inflammation, constant binge eating. I remember the first day that I took my injection, I actually had sores on the roof of my mouth because I had eaten so many Skittles watching a movie like 2 nights before that. Like I had sores on the roof of my mouth. I was in such a state of sugar addiction that I was foregoing meals and eating like drumsticks for breakfast because I could justify it saying it's just the milk is frozen and the cone is like your cereal but all in one cone. And I'm telling you, I was completely in a sugar addiction space. And so my doctor okayed it, and I filled the script and took my first injection. And day three, I looked at my husband and said, I almost feel lonely today. And he said, what? And I said, I woke up today and I didn't analyze everything that I ate yesterday. And my mind's really quiet. And I haven't felt like this in a really, really long time. And it's very hard to articulate to somebody that has never had food noise or struggled with a binge eating disorder. But I was in such a dark place at the time. This might sound crazy to some people, but I was showering with the lights off because I didn't want my mind to tell me what the reflection showed. I was in a dark place, and Mounjaro changed it. And here I am, like almost a year in, and 80 pounds down. And
That's great.
Wow.
And there are
Woo-hoo.
so many days that I feel like I just want to sit and have a drink with the makers of Eli Lilly and say thank you for creating such a thing, such a tool for me to use until the coupon ran out. And now I don't know that I would share a drink. I might.
Right.
Wait, throw it in their face instead.
Now I'm in a place where I actually think, if you would have told me that I would have had this change and known what this felt like for a year, but then the carpet was going to get pulled out, And I actually had to know what the roller coaster felt like and then get back on it, even though I don't want to. I don't know if I ever would have taken the first shot.
Yeah.
I think maybe no. because when you get on a roller coaster that's that scary, that you feel like your life can't handle it, you don't stand back in line for it, right? Like, you know better. And I hate that. because I feel so much better without carrying 80 pounds around and without carrying a binge eating disorder every moment of every day.
Yeah. I think we can all relate to a good bit of that, especially Kat and I, because we also struggle with BED as well.
Yeah.
So you're not alone. I'll tell you that.
No.
I mean, I think the coupon ending, like, because the timing of this episode, there's no way we can not talk about it. And one of the reasons that we started this too, as I mentioned, was because it's not okay. It's not okay that there are medications like this available. And like, that's what, right, Rosie even said on her episode, like, it's inhumane to keep these medications from people when it solves, or at least treats, so many different issues and diseases and disorders. And so we're trying to get to a place where, you know, maybe we can affect some change. And I don't know what the end of this roller coaster is going to look like for us. I don't know, but I think it's worth trying, you know?
Me too.
So that's what we're going to do. And so I would love to understand in terms of, and if it's okay for me to ask you some questions, is that all right?
I'm open. Yeah.
Okay.
You ask whatever.
It's a safe place. I promise I won't leave you astray.
Okay. It's okay.
Okay. So in terms of when you were growing up, is this anything that you were always dealing with, or was this at a specific point in your life?
My binge eating disorder started when I was just 6 years old. When I was 6, my sister passed away. She drowned in a horrible accident, and she was older than me, and she was like another mom to me, and she took care of me. She was my person. She was my safe place, and I didn't know how to process trauma. Of course, you know, I was just little, and there was a lot of, just as you can imagine, trauma in the adults in my life. And so the very first time that I ever ate and made myself sick was on my birthday in the bottom of my closet. It was Snickers. I ate until I was sick, and it was because she wasn't at my party. And so
of course.
I just went from that pain place to the next pain place in my life, and to the next pain place in my life. Always finding food. And I've said all of my life, had I been a teenager or an adult when that kind of pain happened in my life, I would have been an alcoholic. I would have been a drug addict. I would have been a seeker of some kind. But because I was such a little girl, it was food. It was always sneaking food. There was no way to hide anything from me. I would find it. It didn't matter where you put it. I was going to find it, and I was going to eat it all. And so, I wasn't an active in my eating disorder until I was in high school. But the binge eating part has been a part of my life as far as I can remember.
Yeah, I understand. I think that just in terms of being able to relate with you, I also struggled with this one since I was 8. And my parents had split, and then my mom went on her own for a while, and then she met my dad, and then they got married, and they had a child. And it was, you know, they were both young and kind of starting out, and I remember the tension about like money and all of those things and not understanding them. And I loved having a little sister, but obviously there's stressors with that as well. And I didn't really know how to handle it. And I also coped with food because that's usually what kids can get their hands on, right? And they're
Right.
trying to control something. At
Yep.
least that's been my experience. And it's very difficult, I think, to break that cycle. And the
Yeah.
fact that I have genetic issues with obesity on my side, I think it was just kind of like this perfect mix, to cause this to be a continuous issue. And we're definitely going to ask our doctor about that too. Like, what comes first, chicken or the egg? Like, what is it? Is it the predisposition? Is it
Yeah.
insulin resistance? And you mentioned, I know we've talked before about struggling with PCOS. And for most people don't know, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I was in 4th grade when I started my cycle. I started young, and my cycle was, it was just brutal. It was brutal. It was awful. It was like 11 days long. I would lay out towels from my bathroom or from my bed to the bathroom because there was no stopping anything. And
Yeah.
I would miss school. I would throw up. It was horrible. And in my 20s, I started doing some homework and was seeking help. Like, somebody help me figure out what's wrong with me. I knew there was something wrong with me, but I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me until I read an article about a woman that it was like she had followed me around and she was writing my story and using her name. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so I took the article to my doctor and I said, I need these tests run and I need this figured out. And so come to find out, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, adenomyosis. I had 2 laparoscopies to try to remove some adhesions and cysts and try to slow things down. And at 32, ended up with a hysterectomy. And then my hysterectomy is, I don't scar on the outside of me, but I do scar horribly on the inside of me. And I didn't know it at the time, but where they did my hysterectomy caused this beautiful lace that just grows on the inside of me. And it just causes adhesions everywhere. And it attaches my everything. It's just like this spider web on the inside of me. And so twice now I've had to have surgery to remove the adhesions. And actually, right before I started Mounjaro, I was scheduled for the next one to remove the adhesion. And because the inflammation is out of my body, those adhesions aren't pulling, and I'm not losing losing days of work like I was before.
Yeah.
I was having
Amazing.
probably 5 or 6 episodes a month.
Wow.
And I've had 3 episodes in 11 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
an episode, what does an episode look like? An episode for me would be just out of the blue. No warning sign at all. I would just feel like somebody was cutting me on the inside. Like to the point that I would be almost throwing up. If I was at a store, I would have to grab a hold of whatever fixture was near me, and I would have to breathe through whatever was happening like I was having a child. It was like labor pain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm a labor support coach and have been for 27 years. So I would try not to panic and know that I was going to be okay. And I would get myself to the car and try to drive home. But the episodes lasted sometimes 24 hours, sometimes longer. And now they're like an hour or 2. And like I said, I've only had like 3.
Yeah.
So, no surgery for me yet.
Right.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. Well, I hope this has at least helped in some way, for you to not have to experience that maybe even anymore. And I know that we've talked about the coupon going away, the very large expense of this medication. And I talk a lot about how nobody wants to use a compound version of these medications. Nobody wants to. But because this is treating way more than just weight loss, it's treating health, right?
Mhm.
It's a health
Mhm.
medicine. It's not just it's not like the way people think of it as this like diet medication. That's just not what it is. I hate that we even call it weight management. I don't even know why it's in that class, to be honest. Like, come on, stop it. Get with it, people, you know?
Yeah.
And I know it's like really difficult to think about being without it. And I think you're a perfect example of somebody whose life has been changed from a health perspective in a completely different way than just weight, you know, and going without that can make you feel like you have to make a decision, which may not be the safest. And so, you know, I would love if you would talk about that, because I know there are people out there that feel the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 pens in my fridge right now. And I was having a moment the other day where I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take my next one. But then I had to process, but then there's one left. And then I just started crying, and I thought, I can't. I don't know why it's easier for me to look at it and know that there's 2.
Yeah.
Right. But the thought of there just being 1.
Yeah.
And it is like, I've had people, and I'm not recommending this to anyone,
Of course not.
but I've had other people on this medication message me and say, hey, I have backup, and I'm going to mail it to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't have to do that. No, I want to do that. Okay, if you're sure.
Yeah.
And then not send it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I changed.
Oh no.
Oh, okay. And I'm thinking, if this were any other prescription, would I allow somebody that I've never met in my entire life to message me and say, hey, I have this and I'm going to mail it to you? Like, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Or I know this is not a recommendation. This is not something I say that anybody should do. Or look at a 15 milligram pen and be like, you know what? If I was on 2.5, how many times could that be divided? Or if I'm on 7.5, I could make 2 pens last a month. And is there a way to do it? If you do enough homework, yes, there's a way to do it. And is it the safest? No.
No.
Have I done it? Yes. And it makes me feel like I've lost my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm willing to take a risk, but I feel like the risks are smaller than the health risks that I lived with every single day before I started.
Right.
It's the worst.
Are you working with now an obesity specialist, doctor, to help you like through the transition?
I have an appointment on the 26th.
Great.
And then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
I've tried to appeal the denials through my insurance company, and the last remark when I was talking about my A1C being 6.5 when I started, which is the national average for somebody to be diagnosed with type 2, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it
but
is.
with my insurance company, they don't acknowledge it until you're 7.1. And so the woman said, maybe you shouldn't have started it so soon.
Oh my gosh.
And I was
Double face palm.
Unbelievable.
Aghast. I mean, I was like so shocked. Like, you wanted me to be sicker? Because I was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted me to be worse, but I feel like I've saved you thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing to me, the things that people will say.
Yeah.
But that one was a big one. Maybe you shouldn't have started so soon.
Yes, that's the whole point. Like, and I really don't like how our healthcare system. It's I saw someone say, I think it was on TikTok, someone said something, it's a sick care system, right? It's
Yeah.
you get
Mhm.
sick and then we provide you with something, as opposed to, hey, like you're ill in this way. And another one said too, a type 2 diabetic friend said that they had it's almost like you go to the doctor and they say, hey, you have a cancer, but it's just a little bit of cancer. And you're going to have to come back when you have a lot of cancer because it's not worth treating right now.
Right.
Because it's
Yeah.
expensive or because we don't want to, because you're on the wrong side of it's
Yeah.
cruel. It's
It is.
stupid. Like
And
the
I
whole
didn't
thing.
know it when I entered into this community or this journey.
Mhm.
I didn't know anything about being able to even change where I got my prescription filled, right? Like I didn't know that I myself could call and change my prescription
Right.
from one pharmacy
Yeah.
to another. I was so ignorant to this world.
Yeah.
I never would have believed you had I not been on this journey, that somebody that works for an insurance company who does not have a PhD could actually tell my doctor, who does have one, how to treat their
Yeah.
patient.
Oh yeah, that's the big
Or
frustration.
like it's really incredible to me that is a thing in this country, that an insurance company can supersede a physician's orders. Is what?
Yes.
Yeah.
I pay how much a month for what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
I don't understand it.
I don't
I don't
either.
understand it. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
to me.
no.
Well, I think you and I did have a conversation before, and if we don't want to say it, I can always cut it. But you and I both are strong, and I would say, in our faith.
Yeah.
And I know this is something that you've struggled with in your walk, and I would love if you would share that if you're open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, over the years, like I've been a believer for a long time. Not my whole life, like in my 30s. And I can't say that I look at this situation now and feel like there was any malice towards me at all. I think that it's just ignorance in the community and ignorance in Christianity, when it comes to how to pray for somebody and how to talk to somebody who's struggling with an eating disorder. But I, through my healing journey, can look back at, oh my gosh, for years and years of my faith, I have had people pray for me that the chains would be broken. They're referring to the binge eating chains of bondage or whatever, that were holding me back or that affected my life. And I've had people insinuate that maybe my faith just wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
And there were times that I felt like, oh my gosh, like, do I just not trust him enough in my life? Like, I've trusted God in my life so many times, like to Africa and back 6 times, right? To go adopt my children. Like, I can see the fingerprints of God over and over and over in my life, but I could not see them in this until now.
Right.
Until now. Yeah.
And honestly, it's made me a little mad. It's made me just a little bit mad at the thought of my broken thinking, and not just mine, but other believers and other people that have prayed for me, and me wondering at every women's retreat and every prayer, whatever, like, but why not me? Why not me? Why am I a woman who can go to the front and have people lay hands on me and pray for me? Why was this prayer not answered for me? Like, does he not love me enough
Of course.
in this place? Why would God just let me stay this broken? Like,
Yeah.
like to the point I was not showing up for my family. I was not going to the 4th of July parade because I didn't want my picture taken with my family. Like,
Yeah.
why? Why? These are praying people that know him more than me, which is all just a big fat lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little better about it now and not so
Yeah.
spiteful. But in this journey with Mounjaro, learning that it was just a chemical imbalance in my brain, and it didn't have anything to do with how much I love him or how much he loves me, because that measure isn't even a measure. It's like all at once. It doesn't grow by your actions. It doesn't diminish by your actions. Like, he just loves, period.
Yes.
Not because of who you are or how long you've lived or how long you've loved him or how many shots of Mounjaro you have or haven't taken.
Exactly.
He just loves you and me, and it's been that's been a hard emotional process for me.
Of course. Yes. Of course it has. I think especially those who have struggled with it for a long time, there for sure have been moments where I have thought the exact same thing. So if that makes you feel any better, you're not alone, And I've thought that too. And when we decided to start this podcast, the way that things have lined up for me and for us, and me choosing to walk the path. And I think that I'm seeing so many lives that just these discussions and this education that are sending me messages and saying, you brought, and it's not me, it's all of us, right? But just that we've done this and I've followed this path. Everything has been laid out and it is all just like this. And the timing is immaculate. It's immaculate. And I have to think that sometimes we have to suffer so that others don't have to. Like maybe our children don't have to, our grandchildren don't have to.
Right.
And it's hard to process that and understand that. But I think that talking about relationship with God and why it is that you feel this way and the way that people look upon you poorly and they think that it's a moral failing, it's an important conversation to have. So I hope this has opened up some things by you telling your story and being so brave and vulnerable that other people are going to think about this. And I bet you I get a message that says,
someone's going to connect.
That sounds like me. I get one every episode.
Someone
so you doing this
is going to say it. Someone's going to say it, Lisa. And as a fellow believer, it just dropped that it's like you are like the modern day woman with the issue of blood. And I just was like, okay, so that's why I was looking down. That's why and like Kim said, the path, you never know how things will work out.
Yeah.
You never know how things will work out. This whole podcast has been such a walk of faith for each of us, even though we're in the Atlanta area. Your journey is a walk of faith. And I would just, and I believe, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think I'm going to take this privilege and thank you for coming forward. Because again, and most of us believe that when you're open and you don't just hear, but you listen, we're listening to you. And it's not just, oh, well, this is it. But you never know how things are going to work out. And that's all I'll say is you never know who knows who. You never know how things are going to work out.
You never know who knows who.
Don't. And I just thank you for coming forward. And your faith is intact. Your faith is even stronger. And he sees that and he rewards that. You better believe it because we are all walking.
Yes. You're part of this path.
You
came right
are
to me.
part
That's
of
how
this.
it works. You came right to me.
And Mounjaro, I always say, and I'll say this, it heals us from the inside out. It's
Yeah.
not just about the weight.
It's not.
No.
I've always
It's
said
about
it
the
from
health.
day one. I've always
Yeah.
said it from day one.
Yeah.
And
It's so true.
So true.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I have faith. And I have faith that we are definitely going to see an approval for this medication for obesity.
yeah.
And I think it's going to happen this year. And there may be a little hiatus of a few months where we may have to endure, right? Or we may have to consider a different option, or we may need different tools or educations to help us through a bridge. But there are peaks and valleys in every journey, you know? And I think that if we stick with our community and we talk about it, and we have hard conversations, then I think that we can all get through it together. So I'm so pleased that you were able to come today. And I definitely echo Janine's gratitude for that.
I do
And
as well.
yes.
Yes, thank you so
And if
much.
you would like to
Thank
stay with
you.
us, I am now going to invite on a doctor that is going to validate everything you just said with facts, data, and science, which is excellent because then nobody can deny that story.
Because science.
Because science.
Science.
Without further ado. Hello, Dr. Alexandra. How are
Hello.
you?
So happy to be here. Thank you.
We're so happy to have
We're
you.
so happy to have you.
Now,
Exactly.
we
Thank
follow you
for
on
coming.
TikTok, so we know you, but there are people in our audience who may not, especially considering it grows considerably every week, day, hour. We're at hours now.
I'm surprised, like the biggest surprise of my adult life, becoming big on TikTok. Who knew? So just like a little brief bio. I'm Dr. Alexandra Sowa. My handle on TikTok and Instagram is at Alexandra Sowa MD. I am an obesity medicine doctor. My primary training is in internal medicine. I'm a mom of 3 boys and happily married, and I love this field. And it brings me so much joy to hear people talking about weight loss medications openly. I mean, really, it's like the thing that fills me up. You're talking about joy and messages and the divine. You know, for years, for 10 years, I was practicing in this field, and I had to be very quiet about what I was doing. I tried to be vocal, but there was such an influx of lifestyle. I won't even call it medicine because I believe in lifestyle medicine, but just like lifestyle on Instagram, like do this shake, lift these weights, it'll solve it for everyone. And I'm saying, no,
Right.
obesity is a disease. We've known this for a very long time. Obesity is a disease and it causes diseases. Why are we trying to fill this up with fluff? And so now to have people so willing to talk, and yes, we're frustrated, but just that people even know that there are resources here. My little field is still incredibly tiny. We only have about 7,000 doctors out of 1 million in the United States who are board certified in the field of obesity medicine. When I trained not that long ago, 15 years ago, we didn't get a single lecture on what to do about weight. And that's actually how I came to this field, because I would be in my internal medicine clinics treating end-stage type 2 diabetes, heart disease, have people maxed out on high blood pressure meds. And they would say, well, counsel them on weight loss. And you'd be like, well, how? Like,
Right.
I come from a family who all of the women struggled with weight. And so we talked about weight loss nonstop. I luckily grew up with a healthy relationship with food, but it was like, what's the newest Weight Watcher point technique? Like that,
Right.
This is literally what we did every weekend. And I knew that like these traditional tools weren't working for my family who was doing everything they could possibly do. So what else was there? And so when I found this field of obesity medicine, metabolic health medicine, there was no going back for me, but it's taken a few years for people to catch up. And it's so amazing to now have people willing to talk about their journey. When I first started, patients wouldn't even tell anybody. And it's their right to not tell anybody. But now people are like, look what I've been on. You know, it's a celebration.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I was shy about it at first too. Kim, which way are you looking at it right now? Depending on Zoom or whatever. Anyway, right. But Kim took me out of my shell on that. I was afraid to tell anybody what I was doing. Oh, I'm just, no, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
I do correct you.
Coming out of the dark.
It's amazing to share the journey. So I'm so happy to be here, and I'd love to share my experience and and tell
Yeah,
you a little bit
absolutely.
about some of the tools that I've been creating to help people out there.
Yeah, we'd love to hear that, especially considering the timing, as I mentioned earlier. If it's okay, I have a couple questions for you, and so
Yeah.
did the ladies. So, I would love for you to describe what it means in terms of metabolic disorder or metabolic science. Can you
Yeah.
explain a little bit about what that entails, and what that, not just like how to treat it, right? Which we know there are nice treatments for it, but like, what is it and why do these treatments work? How do they
Yeah.
work?
Janine, you were
Yeah.
saying this at the beginning, that it's not just type 2 diabetes. There's like a root to insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome that predates it. And I don't think that most people know that. So people think that fat is the main thing that we're treating. And actually, it is so much bigger than that. Fat is an annoyance, but it's both the secondary endpoint to metabolic dysfunction, and then it creates more about metabolic dysfunction. So in treating it, Lisa was talking about how her adhesions were decreased, how some of her emotional trauma from childhood was decreased. There's a reason for that, and there is science there, right? We know that people who carry excess weight have increased rates of abdominal adhesions significantly. We know that, unfortunately, children that carry childhood trauma have about 50% increased rate of obesity down the road, and then that leads to depression and anxiety and inability to heal. So the fat itself has a lot. It's really active, is how I like to describe it. It's really the most powerful organ, in my opinion. And metabolic syndrome, or metabolic dysfunction, as I call it more globally, is really what happens to lead to the fat. And whether that is binge eating disorder, where we have decreased leptin, which is a satiety hormone, and like a lack of reserve in the brain and stomach for stopping, whether we see that, or we have insulin resistance, which is like, insulin is my jam. It's my favorite hormone to talk about. We have all sorts of imbalances that will then lead to weight. And then when you put on the weight, we have negative feedback signals, and that further dysregulate what's going on. So a lot of times people will come to me and say, I am trying so hard and the weight won't stop coming on. And I know you won't believe me, they'll say. And I'm like, of course I believe you. This is all I do. Of course. Like, you don't need to preface that. But what happens is that as insulin resistance grows, as metabolic syndrome dysfunction grows, it's really impossible for the body to become efficient at burning whatever you're bringing in. And it just goes into a fat storage mode. So metabolic dysfunction globally, I include as insulin resistance, even early insulin resistance. And then the true definition of metabolic syndrome has to do with elevated blood sugar, low HDL, which is the good cholesterol, high triglycerides, which no traditional doctors are looking at, and I'm not sure why, because high triglycerides are a sign of your body just not understanding how to take in carbohydrates. Truly, they just don't know what to do with it at all. And if you see that, it's a roadmap to tell you what to do next. And then we also see increased abdominal circumference, which weight, right? It's a more scientific marker actually than weight, because weight is not always the biggest indicator. So if we can help people identify some of that dysfunction early on, in those early stages of weight coming on and not understanding, and then even a doctor says, oh, your BMI is not high enough for these meds, or just like work a little harder. If you can educate yourself on what you're looking for, I think we can stop a lot of disease in its tracks. And actually, just a small plug, because we're so unique, I actually created an at-home testing kit that tests for all the things that make up metabolic syndrome.
Hey, that's great.
Wow.
Yes.
We'll put it in the notes.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh my
amazing.
goodness.
And I have a discount code for you guys. My assistant did it while we were sitting here. I was like, oh, let's get it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, but my testing kit, what it does is, I long recognized that there was a problem, that people would come to me and say, I ran all the labs and everything looks fine. And then I'd look at the same set of labs and I would be like, but no, you have early insulin resistance, you have metabolic syndrome. And to somebody's point, I don't know who said it at the beginning, but like, we are a system that only looks for the disease state. So it's ridiculous for a patient to come in with a hemoglobin A1C of 5.6, which is how I trained. And they're like, maybe eat a little better, but we weren't even using the words pre-diabetes. And at that stage, it's just a runaway train. Like for most people, it will progress to type 2 diabetes. So we want to catch and insulin. And then I'll stop talking. I know I could just go on and on about this today, but insulin.
Oh, please.
No,
This is
please.
an education place.
Don't
We
stop
love
talking.
this.
You're good.
This is the
Awesome.
place where we want you to talk. Yes.
But insulin, and we use the term insulin resistance, but what is that? It means that the body is producing insulin, but your pancreas is producing insulin, but your body's not receiving it, and it's giving a signal to go back and make more insulin. And insulin is a hunger and a fat storage hormone. And so it's actually a very useful, scientifically validated tool that's not used in clinical medicine, where we can test your fasting insulin. And if your fasting insulin is high, and even if your hemoglobin A1C hasn't caught up yet, we can predict pre-diabetes or insulin resistance 15 years before we start seeing an increase in the average blood sugar marker.
Oh my goodness.
And you guys were talking about PCOS, and this is what we see in PCOS. I love PCOS patients because for me, they're actually very simple to manage, which is so sad because they feel like they're the most complicated patients.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
That was like simple. Wow.
I know. And not to minimize what anyone has gone through, but it's pretty straightforward. And I think it's very sad that we don't have more tools in traditional medicine. Now, all my doctor comrades are doing like the best they can. They got 15 minutes. Their boss tells them that's all they get. And we didn't necessarily learn about these things. But, PCOS is a disease primarily of just insulin resistance. And that insulin resistance gets worse. And then the disease of PCOS gets worse. And fat comes on, and fat makes PCOS worse. And it's just horrible. You said chicken and egg. It's like it's a little bit of both, but they're very interrelated. And if you can target the insulin resistance through diet, lifestyle, knowing what to do without killing yourself on the treadmill or eating like rabbits, like knowing how to eat, and then using the right medication, we can really get to the root of it and then change the trajectory of all the other things that come along with it. So
oh, that's fascinating. I love all that. No cuts allowed.
Yes. No.
But everything you're saying, it's to validate all of it, all of your shared experiences and what you're living. It's just, I just think that there's been a lot of gaslighting in this field, and a lot of doctors aren't in the know, and it is tough.
Yeah. I think when you talk to someone about, like when you talk to a doctor, and anytime they have to say you just need to diet and exercise, you cannot come to somebody that has a very complicated issue and say just anything. Like it's not just as easy as that,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for lung cancer on your own, like we would never
like
say
it
that.
doesn't. No, we don't. This is the one thing that we say it with, right? And it's just like you said. I mean, and I didn't know either. Like I'm pretty sure my PCOS started in college when they put me on a medicine that made me gain 100 pounds. And I'm also pretty sure the reason that I was misdiagnosed and that they put me on this medicine after I've been through a traumatic experience. And when there we go again, right? Young trauma, all the things. Yeah. And I already had issues with obesity genetically. I already had BED, and it was just like literally compounded on top of each other, And then the PCOS just made everything worse. And I'm very blessed that I was able to have one child, but I had several miscarriages before that. And anytime I would go to my doctor and say, well, like, I want to have another baby. It's been 10 and a half years. There's no baby here, and I would say like, well, I want to have another baby. And he wouldn't do blood work. He wouldn't do anything. And because he was a doctor, I just was like, okay. And he's like, you ovulate. And I was like, how do you know I ovulate? Because I've had one child. It's like, that doesn't make sense. You don't know. Yeah. But I didn't push because I thought he's a doctor. He's a specialist. He knows. And he's, and so it's no big thing. But it continued to get awful. And then when I got on these medications, the improvement, specifically with Mounjaro, has been vast. I mean, unbelievable. And I say, lots of people go around and say, oh, this is a miracle drug. And it's, Rosie says it, it's a miracle drug and all these different things. And it's because the experience is miraculous. You never thought it possible. And it blows your mind, at the things that it can change and help treat. But it would be great if people could never get there. But now we are here. Oh, we lost Lisa. She'll come
We'll be back.
hopefully. Yeah. But we are here, and there's not anything that we can do about it now other than try to treat it and move forward, you know? And I think there's something that we've kind of experienced, and Lisa talks about it too, in her story and on her TikToks around this sort of like, I would say sort of like anomaly, if you will, of what we call food noise. And a lot of us have experienced what it was like to have it and then what it was like to not have it. And so like for me, for example, it's kind of different for everybody, but it's not just for me, it wasn't just the thought of constantly feeling like I needed to eat. It was almost like if I was a car and all I had was just drive, just eat, consume. And then when I got to a certain level of this medication, I was able to gear shift in my mind, like, do I want to eat that? No, I really don't, or do I really want that? No, I'm just thinking about the memory of that and the dopamine hit of that and not actually what I want. And then my palate changed and all these different things started to change and open up. And so it's very like amazing to realize what you can do when it's not so noisy in there,
Right.
But what is that? Like what? We feel this and we all know it's true, right? But what is the like clinical behind that? What's causing that?
So these medications, whether we're on Wegovy or Mounjaro, have GLP1 in them, and Mounjaro has 2 hormones, GIP, and we have these receptors all over our body. They're everywhere from our gut to our pancreas to our heart to our brain, and they have just proven to be very effective at down-regulating the up-regulating nature of addictive behaviors. So we've seen this not only with food, but also alcohol. This has been, I have patients who are in recovery who this has been such a helpful medication for them. We're treating them primarily for excess weight, but it's like the best gift to them that they have this, bonus that they don't want alcohol either. And really, that's what it is. It's a chemical process in the brain. And like you said, so much of food is a dopamine hit. And we have other tools. And one of the things I want to say is, and I know you guys primarily talk about the amazingness of these new wave of medications. And it's true. They're pretty amazing. But not everybody needs these meds. And I think that is a misconception now.
I think that's perfect. Let's please talk about that.
It's just, we don't all need to start here, really. And there are a lot of people who will respond to other medications that do work on parts of the brain that decrease reward reception. So Contrave is a medication that is made generic and is very, very affordable. And for many people, it can be a super useful tool, especially for maintenance. It is not as dramatic because we don't experience the stomach emptying, but it gives that pause. Like that exactly pause. Like you can pause and think. And you've learned tools, hopefully along the way with GLP-1s, where you can like, okay, this is my framework. This is how I plan. I'm very big on lifestyle and behavior change in my practice when anyone goes on medication, because a medication can take you super far, but it can only take you so far. And you do have to learn how to, your brain is like the biggest, I have a 10-week course, and the second half is all on how you manage your brain.
Yeah, that's cool.
And food, but really it's your brain, because that's the biggest thing that starts to work against you. And I know there's a lot of panic right now among people where the coupons run out, and it's like the brain spirals first, and it doesn't even allow us to see some other options. And so in working with an obesity med doc, there are lots of other tools. I was in practice for almost 10 years before we had a weekly injectable, before we had wegovy, before we had Mounjaro. And now there's going to be a role of a lot of new meds that are even more effective than what we have out on the market, hopefully. But there are other tools. And sometimes, like, I had a woman just recently who, she's 50, and her doctor was like, well, you're just soft now. Like, I think that's what the words she actually used. And, you're not carrying too much weight. And she's like, but I put like 30 pounds on. Like, this isn't like, I was very thin before, but that was how it was my whole life until like 46. And we helped her with diet, but also we used this Contrave medication, and it just gave her power back in her brain. And she didn't even know, and she didn't need the full kit and caboodle. And if you need the full kit and caboodle, that does not mean that it doesn't mean anything. It just means that you do. But there are other super useful tools out there that are a lot more affordable. And we should preach that too, because it's
Yes.
not like an all or nothing game. And
Yes.
you know, Lisa had said that she was working with, and I think she had an appointment upcoming with an obesity
Mhm.
medicine.
Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
really important, because I think a lot of doctors are outside of their comfort zone writing these meds, and they have no idea.
Yes.
They're like, okay, I'll write them for you. You're bringing me the information. I'm learning about it just like you're learning about it. And that's okay, because doctors can't know everything under the sun.
No.
But finding a specialist can help in this transition process too, and help you potentially troubleshoot other meds that will help with maintenance until we get,
Yeah.
you know, tirzepatide approved for weight loss, and before we have some other meds,
Yeah.
and just finding what the right fit is for you.
I have a
Yeah.
question about that though, because you mentioned Contrave, and all my friends here, we all know Contrave turned my insides out like a pretzel. Like what Leah was talking about, were those pain episodes at a grocery store. It made that time of the month just like I would vomit. The pain was just extreme. So I
Wow.
stopped taking the Contrave. The episode still kind of came along, but then the Mounjaro, when I tried that,
Quieted
there's
it. That is not, that's
subsided.
generally not like a big side effect with that med. There are others. It's generally really
Yeah,
well
the abdominal
tolerated.
cramping. Yeah.
That's,
Mm.
but you have to look at it holistically. What else is going on? I mean, I have everyone keep a food
Oh,
log.
it was the caffeine. Oh yeah, I eliminated caffeine as well. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
So
just, you know, it's like sometimes it's not always causation, and there is a correlation, but it's not the thing
it was a
causing.
stimulant.
And
Yeah.
so, and yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe your body was really reacting to the upregulation of Wellbutrin, and then the brain is attached to the gut, so you know, there could have been something else. But it's not
Interesting.
everything right for
Okay.
everyone. And some people are like,
Yeah, exactly.
Mounjaro didn't work for me, so I'm a lost cause. No.
Right.
No, yeah, I didn't give up.
There
There's
other tools too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
no.
think, and even if people, I think also people don't always consider Victoza Saxenda either, which has been around a lot longer. It's going to have a generic next year. I think it's a really good starting
Textbook is
place.
coming out as generic, but right now I'm like reluctant to tell anyone about it, because it's very hard to get all because of the
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
But I love it, and it's great. And some people like it better. Some people's bodies respond better to the daily dosing than they do weekly. And
It's
again,
almost like there's not one size fits all body. It's almost like that.
Wow. Right.
Exactly.
So in terms of, we talked about like an eating disorder, and we talked about it in the beginning. But I want to know, in terms of like that constant needing to eat, like eating disorder that comes around with obesity, with insulin resistance, metabolic issues, where's that coming from? I mean, is it sort of the same? Like, what is it that's affecting the brain to where it feels like it needs to constantly be ingesting food, you know?
I think it's multi-dimensional. I think there's definitely an emotional component of feeling something when you eat, right? And so tapping into how you feel when you eat, I think, is really important, and is like something I try to give to my children. Like, why are you eating? Are you hungry? Do you feel it in your stomach? And we really try not to reward or punish through food in my house too. Just to, it's like very healthy from a young age relationship, but not everyone can have that. And it, you know, we can develop an addiction to food as we age, just like an addiction to alcohol or drugs, and our brain. And I think what happens though, specifically in binge eating disorder, and we see this on the flip with anorexia too, we start to change our hormones to support this new state. And we see a huge rise in insulin after an episode of binge eating disorder. We see a decreased rate of leptin release after a binge eating episode. So that hormone I was talking about, where you are supposed to be satiated, it like doesn't come.
Right.
So the mechanism becomes broken, and it comes like 2 hours after the fact. But at that point, you're so unwell that you've rolled yourself to bed and are in pain, right?
Yes.
Right.
And so it's both emotional, but then it becomes very hormonal. And insulin, as I was mentioning before, I think is really important to kind of keep tabs on, because if you have an episode where you overeat and you do it repeatedly, your insulin level will constantly be in a state of high. And a high insulin level signals for your brain to store fats and to eat more. So then it does become just a cycle that you cannot break. And I think some of our treatment, some of your community might not be happy with me when I say this, but I think some of our treatment for binge eating disorder has been misguided. I think a lot of it has been around what you need to do with food. And I think what would really love to see these medications approved for binge eating disorder is that once I'm able to put someone on these meds, when they have a healthy relationship with their weight,
Yes.
they're able to actually say, oh, I know what it is to eat protein in the morning. I can do that
Yes.
now, right?
Yes.
They were always willing. Yeah.
Yes. I just
Yeah.
couldn't. I really, really couldn't, you know, but now I can. I do all the things now.
Do all the
Look at
things.
all the things that we
Got
said.
protein,
all the
coffee.
things.
Yes.
Yes. And it's just too much to do. And but I do think that we have to be careful because in the treatment of binge eating disorder, some people don't have a healthy relationship with their body, their physical body, and being really uncomfortable in it and really need extra care in a comprehensive manner where it's not just the medication. They really need to work on the brain too, because treating just quieting the food noise or quieting the desire for food isn't enough. And something I'm not sure if you guys have talked about is when we lose weight, we know it to be true. There's something called transfer addiction.
Yes, we have.
You talked about it. So if you don't deal often with the thing that's triggering you to overeat or to self-harm or to drink too much, you seek that same thing out in a different vehicle.
Yes.
So we have to be careful that we're not doing that either. And when we're just eating for pure emotion and it's not driven by the hormones, we really have to make sure to treat that too.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important. And the one thing to consider too is like with our community. So it's so many different people of different backgrounds, different, religions, different cultures, different, I mean, just it's completely like we have men, we have women, it's vast. And so because of that, there are different perspectives. So in our show, we like to include all perspectives, and we have doctors on all the time that don't agree, and that's okay. You know, because for people to be able to make an informed decision, it's important for them to hear all perspectives.
All of it.
So we appreciate your perspective here, and I thank you for sharing it with us very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, it's just no one size fits all. I mean, that's truly it. And I think sometimes the social media can get very loud on that. Like, this worked for me, this should work for everybody, but it's not always
like berberine.
Like what?
I love berberine. The berberine is not going to have the same effect as Mounjaro. I just did a check.
No, it's very mild,
but it supports blood sugar very effectively.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So speaking of, because I know that I've done everything under the sun, and this is my question. I did OA, or Overeaters Anonymous, for a while, and their program was to omit trigger foods completely. Then you go to some programs or some outlets that say they encourage the moderation, which is fantastic as well. I remember being in OA; it was very white knuckle, like, oh my god, but no, I got to pray, and I'm not disparaging it, or call my sponsor and things like that. But now we see some other outlets or some other obesity medicine specialists focusing on intuitive eating.
Yeah.
And would that be, I guess, could that be like the perfect role, the perfect combination? Should we?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So here I go again, going against maybe what other people have said. I think intuitive eating is actually very, very tricky. And I think again, it has been usurped by social media kind of. It's like a great thing to say, like, you want wine, have wine. You want a cookie, have a cookie. I think that there are some foods that are very hard for some people to stay away from. I tell my patients this all the time and use myself as an example. I can't keep gummy bears in the house. I am great with every other food under the sun, but gummy bears are my kryptonite. And if they're there, I cannot stop, and they hurt my stomach. And why do I do that to myself? But there's something about them that is like, it's my thing. And so I buy it occasionally. Like, I get it as a treat. Someone gives me a little thing on my birthday. Fine, great. I enjoy it. I don't have a big old bag. I had a patient who couldn't handle peanut butter. It was like a thing she could not stay away from. Like, she just had to put the spoon in, even on medications, even when there was no problem with anything else. So Do we have to be intuitive about things that cause us worry and upset? No, I don't think so. I don't think we have to like challenge ourselves in that way. I also do believe in therapeutic nutrition. So if we see prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, PCOS, we know that there are ways that really help through food for those diseases when we see diseases of insulin resistance. And so I really teach about macronutrients and a focus on carbohydrates. Does that mean you can never have a carbohydrate again? Absolutely not. But I think guidelines around specific foods and giving someone the ability to plan, enjoy is like way more powerful than having this struggle with my brain doesn't tell me to stop with this food. There must be something wrong with me. And instead, how we work on it is, what are you really going to enjoy? Like, let's like look at life in terms of food. Most of it's low hanging fruit. It's like breakfast that you just need to eat to make sure you get in your protein, or it's leftovers for lunch. You're not enjoying it with other people. It's just to fuel you. And in those meals, I ask people to focus on foods that really are good for their bodies and good for however we decided to help them. And then for the celebration meals, not cheat, I never use that word, but for the meals that you want to do something a little different, is that intuitive eating? Sure. But I actually ask people to plan for it. I think intuitive means you just know what's right. And I think that's really hard. I think it's really hard even for someone who does this all day, every day. I still do better when I plan out my family weeks. I know what I'm going to have for lunch. It's like we're humans. We have decision fatigue. And so intuition will lead me to like, I don't know, eat boxed mac and cheese when I don't even want that, but it's like there in my, I don't know, someone made it for my kids. Like that's intuition, I guess. But I think having power and ownership of over how you decide to eat is the more important thing. Like I'm going out on Friday night and I'm going to have the pasta dish and I'm not going to think twice about it. I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm going to eat it and enjoy it and love it. Great, move on. Not, I really shouldn't, but I'm going to. No, I really want people to enjoy the experience of it. So
yeah,
I'm more for planned eating.
Yeah.
Sounds like we can just live all around all the neighborhoods in eating world and eating the Navy.
That's true. And again, it's like what works for some people. Some people swear by an OA approach to food. Some people swear by it. And it's like, I'm an addict, I'm a sugar addict, and I can never touch this thing. And you have to help people. I personally help people find the thing that is going to work for them. You know, I don't have one size fits all because everyone's different.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, and expand on that. This is a good segue. How does diet culture that eat less and move more damage your metabolism?
It ruins it. It ruins it.
It ruins
I would go one thing to all the young people out there is like, food is not the enemy, and you have to learn how to eat. I really wish someone would have taught me how to eat what was actually like a balanced meal, like, and really the importance of protein, especially for women. We just eat so little of it.
Yeah.
Whether you're getting it through plants or animals, I really wish someone would have just said, like, focus on where you are now rather than trying to lose 5 pounds, rather than trying to eat like a rabbit or do the lemonade cleanse. I totally did that in high school. Why? You remember, like, cayenne lemon drink, right? I don't know why. I didn't lose weight because people were doing it.
The same Beyonce does it too.
I was going to do it.
Well, if Beyonce does it.
You know, Beyonce. What it does, and we know this through science, if you look at the Biggest Loser studies, which I think are the best example of this, significant calorie restriction with a lot of exercise, physical activity might lead to weight loss. But what does it do? It tanks your basal metabolic rate, and it puts you at a disadvantage. And unless you are keeping up with that intense level of what it is you did to get there, you are going to regain. And when you regain, you're going to get back up to your starting weight, and your basal metabolic rate is going to be lower, and then your weight's going to come back on. But some people will say, well, don't lose weight at all. No, it's just doing it in the extreme, constant yo-yo is harmful. And we have to do it appropriately. And actually, these medications, especially in the way that we titrate them, help people do it appropriately, where we're losing between 0.5 and 1% of our total body weight a week and really not going above that. And so some people get really frustrated. They're like, but I thought I was going to lose 20 pounds in a week. Like, like what? I would never help you do that. That's not going to help you, person who only has 20 pounds to lose. We need to do it in a much slower way. We need to focus on the macronutrients. We need to focus on our proteins. We do need to focus on some sort of exercise, but strength training is best, not extreme cardio that stresses the body out, where we build up our muscles and we keep up our basal metabolic rate. At the end of the weight loss journey, you are going to have to eat a little less than you did at the beginning, but hopefully we can shift it so that the calories aren't reduced, but it's just we're eating differently. And that's my goal for everyone. So I really think that, like, if you fail on your own you win and then you fail and you lose weight and then you regain, and it's like, this is really time to step in and talk to a doctor, talk to a professional, talk to someone who can help you stay there. Maintenance is the biggest focus of my practice. I want people to stay there when they get there. It's so hard on your brain.
Maintenance, it's the toughest thing.
Yeah.
Totally.
And
we're definitely going to do a maintenance episode. It's planned.
Yes. Especially, and it's not all about me, but so many people in the community are now on track to be in maintenance. And I'm one of them. I am now 10 pounds away from my goal weight. And today's my 6-month Mounjaro anniversary.
Wow.
And so I think, and I'm going to mirror what Kat said, that is such a perfect segue, because people talk about maintenance, but when they start their journey, and many of us in the community deal with the questions we get fielded about side effects. So the community wants to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if it can come from a medical doctor, especially in obesity, specialist, I think that would be great. So I just have a few questions, because I'm almost like obsessed with gastro and like all.
She's a weird girl, but I
am weird. So
let's talk about it. Otherwise, people are suffering in silence.
Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh.
No glory in pain.
Yes. And
that's my sister's favorite phrase.
Glory.
There's no glory in pain.
And the pain. And it's like the risk and the reward, which is what I always say to people, is the reward worth the risk? So my first question is, the main question I get is the sulfur burps. What causes these, and what are good ways to treat and manage sulfur burps, and how is it different from GERD?
Yeah. So just like higher science level, GI side effects are the biggest complaint in all of these GLP1 plus medications. And they're pretty high in some trials. The dropout rate is like up to 17%. I will say we can treat it. And I think it's wild, actually, that a lot of patients, not in my practice, but outside, will find all of their support on Reddit or TikTok. Because if you just manage the side effects, like, I have nobody who can't. Everyone I start this on can tolerate it, because we know how to do it appropriately. So I'm so glad you asked. So sulfur burps are really, okay, everyone take a deep breath before I say it. We need to eat a little bit less. So sulfur burps are really too much food sitting in the stomach. And it is your body saying, I can't take more right now. And I have not digested what you gave me before. And it's wild, guys. Wow. The GIM thing is so significant with Mounjaro.
Right.
That my anesthesiology colleagues have found that they want people stopping this medication a full 10 days before any planned surgery to guarantee that it's the food effect from Mounjaro is out of your system.
Yeah.
And some anesthesiologists are even requiring 14 days. And why this is because if they intubate you, they don't want anything in your stomach. And they used to just tell you fast after midnight and you'll be fine. But this med is so powerful that food can sit there. So you'll be like, but I haven't eaten in 10 hours. But if you're routinely having these sulfur burps, smaller meals and focusing on the things that your body really needs, like protein. A lot of people will think that they need to eat the healthy foods, and I'm putting it in quotations because I love vegetables, but a lot of vegetables, including salads, they have a lot of bulk to them and they don't break down that well. And so that food can sit in the stomach and doesn't allow the room for what it is you need. So like a post-bariatric surgery patient, I really do recommend focusing on the food. And if you're having sulfur burps, don't actually drink water at the time of your meals significantly. No water for 30 minutes. Let the food sit there, and then have your liquid in between.
Great tip.
Yeah, and there's some evidence that digestive enzymes will help. I will recommend some methicone, which is like Gas-X, or what's in Beano, to help break down and to reduce some of that pressure in the stomach. But generally, like, just smaller and maybe potentially more frequent meals. So not waiting that 12 hours, but just like having something small. And the difference between GERD or reflux is that it's not acid based. So it's not that like the acid is coming up through your stomach. It's really the food taste. Now there can be a little bit mixed in. So sometimes I will give patients an antacid to take, just for as we're titrating up, so that their stomach can get settled. Generally speaking, it's also a sign that your dose might be too high and that it's time to sit at another dose for another month. I don't rush my patients up in any titration schedule if they're feeling any side effects. We wait and we have to be patient, because what's the point of being on a medication that's making you miserable, sending you to the ER? It can get pretty bad.
Exactly.
The other thing that I will recommend with this is making sure, especially like on the nausea front. So the sulfur burps can also be, never said the word sulfur burp so much, but the nausea that comes along with it. A lot of times people will feel it first thing in the morning. And what I recommend is keeping electrolytes by your bed and drinking them first thing, and kind of calming your stomach and quieting any acid. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's very important, and that helps us with our fatigue, our nausea, salts. A lot of times nausea is a need for salts. I also do recommend a B complex for people on these medications. You can use our coupon over at our website, because a B complex will really help cut down on nausea, which can generally just like have a nice effect on cutting down on a lot of these GI side effects.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Julie loves this stuff.
That's why I've been taking B12 for a while. Maybe that's the reason why I didn't have very many effects.
I don't really have any of the sulfur.
And everybody's different. So it's not
Right,
50. Yeah. All have to run out and buy this stuff. But everyone will have something. I do not think
everyone will have something.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's fatigue. It's
mine's the other direction.
Yeah, if you just know how to manage and be proactive. Our medical system is sick focused, but people are generally sick focused too. It's a little hard to get on top of things before you have the issue. But when it comes to the GI tract, it's generally prevention goes a long way. The slightly smaller meals, the tips that I just talked about.
Great tips. Yeah.
General fiber every day. I'll tell you unless you're seeing a ton of patients like this, I just feel like you just don't know how to manage it. And so I have everyone on a protocol, and so we've really, I've had the benefit of helping a lot of people and knowing exactly what to do. And so now it works really well.
Yeah. This is amazing, because sulfur burps are probably in the top 3 questions that
me too.
that I get,
me too. But in our lives,
our lives are nothing but newbies. There's so many new members to the community. But I just have 2 more questions, even though I could nerd out about this all evening. But
GI.
Yeah, love it. A person such as myself who really struggled with constipation, going from, especially when I titrated up from 2.5 to 5 milligrams. What are some of your top recommendations to avoid constipation, so you're not like me and just having to treat it? How can people on GLP-1s avoid it?
So number one tip, my company is releasing a multi-fiber supplement soon. So everyone should check that out, and I will let you guys know when it's available. I've been creating a blend for my patients for years, and we're going to release it more globally because that's it. It is getting on top of constipation through the right fiber blend. So a lot of supplements out there are a little harsh on people's GI tract, especially if you've suffered with constipation for a while. And so taking a combination of things that are like lower fermenters rather than just psyllium husk in your stomach actually have a big effect. And also getting the right dose. So if you go to the store and you got like Metamucil, they'll just tell you to take like 2 tablespoons and then drink some water with it. It's too much, and it's too much on these meds. Like, they weren't made for people on GLP-1s and GIPs. We need to like start super slow. So even if you're using something over the counter and you're like, that bloated me, it made me feel unwell, it didn't help me, you want to take like a quarter of what it recommends, and then all the water in the world. Like, not just you need to like take all the water with the fiber supplement so that it actually moves through your GI tract.
What equals all the water? What equals like all the water? Like 80 ounces?
I mean, so they say like 8 ounces, and I will generally say about 24 when you're taking your fiber supplement, which is not so much.
Okay.
But, like, I just want to make sure that it's not just like standing in your stomach and sitting in your gut and making you feel unwell. And all my GI colleagues, like, they'll say the same thing. It's like people who don't tolerate these are picking the wrong fiber supplement / not enough water. And that's really the best thing, because your gut does not get used to this sort of fiber, meaning like it's not harmful, it's helpful, but you have to take it every day or every other day or find your rhythm for it. And then so that's like number one prevention, is like finding the right fiber supplement and really sticking to routine. And then sometimes we have to be a little bit more aggressive. So magnesiums can be very helpful and safe for the gut. So we'll have milk of magnesia, old school style. I like it. It's still
I always say that.
Yes, I really like it. And you drink it, and it's pretty like tasteless, but you remember to do it for bed, and then like it will help your gut move. It pulls water into your gut and moves things along. Magnesium citrate too, you can take in tablet form, not quite as effective, but will help. And then we have like, we can like go up the ladder. Oh my God, you weren't joking. You are the queen of
she
GI.
is.
Yeah.
So
I sure am.
We can kind of go more natural. And then there are bigger medications or supplements. So you can do something like a stool softener or a Miralax, but not every time. You don't want people, but as you need them. They are as needed tools. And then I will tell you, there are actually a few people that I manage who do so well on these medications, but constipation was a very big issue for them before we went on these drugs. And even with all the preventative things in the world, they actually need a prescription strength medication that's traditionally used for IBS, but that we then help them with and get approved through insurance. It's generally we have to do a prior authorization, but we can generally get it. And so it's a little bit of a bummer for them because they have to take one more med, but they feel great. And then we start to move off of that down the road. So no, I don't want to hear about anyone getting like so constipated they have to go to the ER, too high of a dose, not doing enough preventative stuff. But it happens, and it kind of gives these drugs a bad rap. But it's generally so well tolerated, and I don't even like to call them side effects. They're like secondary things we have to deal with.
I like that. Secondary things we have to deal with.
That doesn't fit like.
Yeah.
I
mean, because I was in the opposite direction of that. I think like early, like when I started, I was taking like a Colace every couple of days, but I just kicked up the kale, and now
kale is awesome.
After taking like 10 milligrams, and now I'm on 12.5. Like, no, it's the opposite. Like, it's I'm hella regular. So
you still need fiber too. So that's still like fiber helps both ends.
It does. I noticed that like extra, like when I increase like cabbage.
And the fiber gummies are great. Yeah. No, look at you. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, she's got all the things.
She
keeps them all in her big bag, and she like pulls them out like a mom. You know, she'll just be like,
You're doing exactly what I want. Prevention.
It works. This is what works, right?
Yeah.
Look, see, and people laugh at me, but I'm
I
like,
do.
look,
You're not uncomfortable, are you? Right? So
She's a
You
Girl
know
Scout.
what?
She's always prepared.
no more, because it takes just one bout of an experience with constipation, and you don't want that anymore. And I had it really, really bad. On top of constipation, here's my last question. I suffered from fatigue. And I think Kim and Kat can attest. I literally, thank goodness I started the Mounjaro when I was on vacation. And it was a staycation, because I went from the bed to the sofa, from the sofa to the bed. And that's about all I could
wow.
do. Yeah,
Wow.
it
Ooh.
was, it was pretty bad, but I stuck it out. So for people like me, or maybe that don't have such as extreme cases of fatigue, can you explain like why on GLP-1 meds people suffer with, fatigue, lack of energy, and insomnia? Because because the golden hours between 1 and 3, I used to be like this, and I'm just like, okay, I can't go to sleep. I don't know what it is.
Well, the theory behind fatigue, and it's very real, it's that our body has a relative reduction in blood sugar. And so even if we had started off with a healthy blood sugar, even a few point reduction is enough for the body to be like, what's going on? And I can't function. And just I don't know if you noticed, but generally speaking, the fatigue goes away by the end of the first month, and then it hits you again when you go up on the dose. And so what I really advise is that this is normal, and this is a journey that we're on. And once we get you to your maintenance dose, this will go away. Electrolytes are very much your friend in the fatigue setting. I also find that salt becomes very unbalanced. So everyone knows, like, we should be focusing on our water, but food, and specifically carbohydrates and processed foods, and the foods that actually are really quieted with these medications, they contain a lot of salt and sodium. And what we need is actually what we call solute salts, or like food to bring water into the right places of our body. So even if you're chugging the water, if you don't have salt along with it, you will not get it into the right parts of your body.
Yes.
And you'll get super tired and really run down. And then the third thing that happens is we are in a weight loss state. We have to give the body some credit for recognizing that something's happening, and I'm not sure if I should be conserving my energy to put up a fight. And that's really what it is. And I do wonder if in describing your insomnia, that was also something like your fight or flight mode was a little triggered, and like, should I be on alert in the middle of the night? Like, what's going on? Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
It makes
animals.
so much sense. Yeah.
It makes complete sense now.
Yeah. And so just talking through this with people, like, it will get better, so if anyone's on it and hearing it, but we're animals. Like, we can't stress our bodies out too much, but with weight loss, what I've found is that really over time, we start to get adapted into a new state. And so all these things come back. Like, there's nobody in my practice who still has fatigue on these meds after a couple of months. Nobody. So you got to power through.
I've never had the
good.
Look,
but I do have the insomnia sometimes, and I'm just like, out of nowhere, It's so bizarre.
I don't have it anymore, but I started doing a B12 injection, and that really helped me. I didn't even, know, but when you talked about B12, the B12 injection,
we
and
test for B12 in my kit, because I think it's that important, because nobody tests for it, because it's so low, and like so many people, it really affects metabolism when it's
I take it in vitamin form. Is that like?
I mean, generally speaking, for most people, sublingual or a pill tablet is fine, but then an injection is, a bigger boost. Yeah.
Look, Look,
Little side note, extra science fact. Some people have to get their B12 through injections because there is a part of their stomach that does not absorb B12.
right.
And this is actually a true deficiency. So if I find low B12, and you can start to get all sorts of weird findings with super low B12, and we try to supplement with pills, and they still have the symptoms or it's not coming up, and then I have to send them to gastroenterology, and we check to see if they have something called pernicious anemia. And it's a lot more common than you might think. So I don't know if anyone's listening and is like, I'm so low in energy, and like ask the doctor to check it. It really is it's a very cheap to test or affordable to test.
I just love all this knowledge. I'm so excited. I'm nerding out.
This is amazing. And my doctor also said, because those that have certain conditions, especially autoimmune diseases, it's best to bypass the GI system with taking B12 pills, especially on GLP1. She said because the GLP1 goes through your gastro system. If you're taking a B12 pill, then it might mess with you actually getting the B12 possibly. So for me, she said an injection is better because then you're getting it right then, right there, and you bypass your GI system.
Yeah, it's nice. It gives you a big boost.
Yeah.
I take it every morning with my protein coffee before I go work out.
Coffee. It's a coffee.
Coffee.
It's a coffee.
You guys know all the tips and tricks. You don't need me. I hope I taught you.
Well, we've been at it for a year. And we did. Look at all the things you taught us. And there's so many people
My gosh,
that are beginning their journey or in the middle of their journey or rerouting their journey or are going to have to stop for a little while and then start again. Like all of this is just really good knowledge. And you can only get so much in a 3-minute TikTok, not to mention the algorithm problems, which I won't go into, but there are problems with it. Bad.
If you can't tell, I like to talk. So all my videos are like 3+ minutes, and TikTok's like
I love it.
This is important stuff. Like, and
it is.
But everything with TikTok is like based on the attention span of I don't know, a fly.
Squirrels.
Like, it's like squirrels. Yeah, and because we're all just very squirrely when we're on there, But yeah. This is really
I'm always happy to answer more questions, and
it's super good.
I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing and the way that you're talking about it and sharing stories. And it's just, this is a brave new world with these meds, and sometimes it's very frustrating, but in the best way. It's that we have so much ahead of us, and it's a super exciting time for me to be a doctor because I have real solutions and Can I just say one thing? The one thing we haven't talked about at all, and I think is really beautiful here, is that no one has used the word skinny, and no one has framed this in terms of being a specific weight or size. This is all about health.
Yes,
and
it is.
The more that we can preach this, the more we can help people understand that this is not vanity. This is, sure, we can feel good. I want people to celebrate, but it really is so much bigger than that. And what you're doing is helping people.
Thank you.
Learn.
We're trying. Yeah. Because
you're helping us.
I mean, I still struggle with it because there's a whole lot of diet culture stuff in my head because I've been at this for a long time, and always struggling with weight. And I think it's interesting because sometimes I will even see someone and it looks like to me, from my perception, that they shouldn't lose any more weight. But what I forget is it is medical. This isn't Phenermine. This isn't that type of thing. It's writing an issue with your body, right? Going back to the metabolic issue, right? Or with PCOS and insulin resistance. It's writing that so that your body can get right and your health is good, and then things will follow, right? The weight loss will follow. And I, who have a podcast about this, will say, "Oh God, they're losing too much weight. Oh, why? I don't know their business." We have to stop thinking about it in that way, and I don't know how other than to just talk about it, because when we don't talk about it, I think that sort of makes it kind of evokes shame. And I don't think we should feel that way.
It's been been internalized with us.
No shame allowed.
No shame allowed.
We have to try to get it out. I talk about this in my program as negative thinking. And every time we have a catch on a negative thought, we have to actually get it out of our brain and write it down. And we can process it later, but it's really important to recognize that, because if we don't handle that and like deal with it and understand what it is, you'll keep coming back. And it might derail us, not
Yes.
tomorrow, not 6 months, maybe like in 3 years.
Yeah.
You'll be like,
Mm.
haven't dealt with
Yeah,
it.
totally. Yes.
So,
So true.
again, it comes
So
back
true.
to the brain being so important. So
Yeah.
the work you guys
I mean,
are
this
doing
whole-
is amazing.
This whole process is really just such a, oh, I don't want to say it. My daddy will get mad at me. Mine.
I know.
But like,
Hopefully we're about the same thing.
it is, because like your
It
body
is.
starts responding and your brain's got to catch up. And it's like, and your emotions have to catch up. And like all of that work is so important. And I do hope that when people are going through this, they have someone, at least someone to talk to if they don't have a therapist, like at least someone to be able to talk to and process with, because it is a lot to process, you know?
Yeah.
So we're also hoping this will help with that, right? Because we're going to have lives,
Yeah.
where people can talk to us, and we do lives on TikTok because we want people to have an
Yeah.
outlet, because not everybody can afford a therapist. Not everybody's going to see a therapist. Like, so at least having someone that you can process with, I think, is really important. So
Community.
that's what we're trying
Community.
for.
It's community. I mean, it's really
Mhm.
that's it. It doesn't all have to be one-on-one, and a community
No.
can be so powerful, actually. And I think
So
shared
powerful.
stories and realizing that you're not alone in what you're thinking
Not
is
at all.
super important.
Yeah.
And we actually have a community element to my online group Telehealth program, which I realized I thought it all had to be one-on-one. And then when I started teaching people in groups and then sharing, it was
Yeah.
so powerful. And there was like
They're
an
so
element
powerful.
of old school Weight Watchers that was nice. Like you liked
Yeah.
going and seeing people and sharing their
Yeah.
stories. I don't
Connect
totally
with different
Wow.
people, different, yeah, just these little
Removing the
friendships
fault
that, yeah.
and the shame,
exactly.
and then putting people together has been the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if you can say, hey, like at some point you got a little broken and we can't do anything about that, but we can fix this now. And now going forward, we're going to handle it like this, and we're all going to help each other. That piece, that's amazing. But like community Weight Watcher style, where you kind of, because of the way you were, like, we're kind of blaming others and looking
I mean, there's
down
so
on
much bad
others.
about it, but this concept of like
Yeah.
The
leaning on other
community of
people
it.
and like community
Yeah.
and like hearing
Yes.
someone else's journey, because
Yes.
otherwise you just feel like you're totally alone in this thinking. And that's what I think is so
Yes.
amazing
Right.
about what happened with the Mounjaro community and TikTok. It's like for years people come to me and be like, I must be the only one dealing with this because my
Yeah.
neighbor isn't, my
No.
sister isn't, but I am. No.
Mhm.
No.
Mm-mm.
40% of Americans right
75% of us in the
here.
United States are dealing with it. So you're not alone.
Awesome.
Aw.
Well, it has been so great having you here. I know we've taken so much of your time up, but we've just covered so many things. I'm going to have shorts for days, and I will be sure to tag you in them so that you can share them.
Good.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
I'm always
Yes.
happy to answer any questions. Thank
Really
you for
That'd be
having
appreciate
me.
great.
it. Yeah.
And we'll put your bio and a link to your practice and the coupon codes
Great.
if anybody
So we
wants
get
to
that
try
kit.
things. Yes.
I know.
Yeah,
That
listen,
kit.
I hear my baby crying, so I have to go feed him dinner.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
Perfect
I'll feed the
timing.
baby.
So I will update that and I'll give it all to you, and then everyone can get it next week.
Yes,
Awesome.
that's great.
Yay.
Thank you so much. We really
Thank
appreciate your time.
you.
Thank
Take
you.
care
We
of the baby.
appreciate it. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was so good. What a
Oh
good
my
episode. They're always good.
gosh.
They're always good. My nose to run, of course.
That was amazing. I mean,
I know.
every episode
jam.
is amazing.
I
But
know.
wow.
My dog is being such bitch. She's like, come here. I gotta show you. Look at this. She is like
Hey.
all up in my business.
Oh my goodness. Pup. Is she the one who opened the door?
Yes, she's the one that opened the door, and she came in and she's like, and I'm like, dog, I am in the middle of a serious discussion.
Look at that
like,
Look
face,
at the way she's
though.
looking at you. She's like,
She's like, whatever,
like,
lady.
Peasants.
I need my
Girl.
loves.
I love it. Oh,
Oh,
Aw.
she's cute. All right, enough of the cameo. We already have a mascot.
Oh, and she
Aw.
kissed you.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah, she's a weird one. She's real cute though, right?
she
All right,
is
go away.
beyond gorgeous.
She got to you and said, "Err."
Like, look at me. Look at me.
I know, right? Anyway, enough of that. I won't cut it out because it's too cute. But that was such a good episode. I feel like we have a lot of really good information and other
do.
resources. We're always looking for resources for our community. And especially when they come from people who are specialists in obesity, I think it's really important, or endocrinologists or bariatric doctors, like people that actually understand these metabolic disorders. So
Yeah.
hopefully they'll be able to check it out. And of course, like, we're not just so you guys all know, like, we will have sponsors, but this isn't like an affiliate situation. If there's a coupon available and you can use it and you're interested, Go
Have
forth
at
and
it.
be. It's
Do
cool.
it.
Yeah, that's how we roll here. So it's totally fine. But yeah, I thought it was super good. And I hate that we lost Lisa, but her story was really good.
Oh
And
my
I think it will mean a lot to somebody out there. Somebody will hear it and go, oh, every time. I've not had one episode that hasn't gone by where someone hasn't reached out to me and said, oh my God, I heard this and I thought, and it sounds like me, and I'm going to go see my doctor. Every
Right.
time, more than one, every episode. So I think that it will matter, and all of these things, and you and Janine, you and I have talked about like walking the path, like, you know, it's then, and you don't have to you don't have to be a believer in God or anything like that. That's just that's the way we do it, you know?
Right.
And that's cool. You know, you're welcome here no matter what. It's just happened to be part of Lisa's story. And it happened to be a part that I knew Janine would, and I knew I did. And I didn't know about Kat because Kat, I don't talk about that. But, you know, I just thought it was really important because I think sometimes when you're dealing with these emotions, you think to myself, like, why has God put me in this situation? Why doesn't he love me? Why can I be like them? Especially when you're young, right? And you're trying to like reconcile all this,
the master
you know?
plan.
Yeah. And it's very easy to get put in this, like, I've been put in a situation where I have to struggle, you know, and why do I have to struggle? And they didn't. And that, I think that with your higher power, you know, whatever that looks like, you know, that is part of this struggle. It is.
It
so
is.
It was very brave of her to share it. And it all happened legitimately. One day I was just, you know, how I like to do drive-by lives, where I just go by and I like love bomb people, you know? And so I was just doing that, and hers was up, and I don't usually go to her lives, like, it's because she's usually on the same time when I'm drive-by, you know? And she was on, and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're here. I want you to know. And she just started saying how much she loved the show and what it meant to her, and describing like her healing, her relationship with God. And I was just like, it's the path. It's the path. Right. And we're just going to keep walking it and see where this roller coaster goes.
Keep on walking.
I know, right?
Keep on walking. Yeah.
18 episodes later.
18 episodes later. Let's see what's
Oh,
next.
you know
We got
what?
a lot more
I
planned.
think Janine needs a big round of applause because there was no technical Wi-Fi freeze at all.
This Comcast finally gotten their crap together and fixed your internets?
Sorry, my arms were sore.
Yeah. A little dance, little plus sides.
Can I just say that
too much biceps?
I noticed the same thing. I was like, wait a minute.
Like, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
I don't want to say anything,
Yeah.
but I didn't go out.
No. Like, there was a couple times where you were just slightly delayed in your like movements with your words, but like it was not a lot. And I was like, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying a word.
Nothing.
If the five, we have 5 to 7 seconds where you go out and you almost always come back almost every episode. So we'll see. But it was good. We didn't trip over each other. Like we all had, like, we didn't like interrupt each other because of like lulls in internet. Like, it was good. It was a good episode.
Yeah.
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 We hope you all think the same. We're still recording.
Hopefully.
Yes. All right. Well, I think we've come to the end of a lovely evening together. So let's do our classic sign-offs. I see a book. You got a book, Kat? Give me your sign-off. What is it?
I got my quote book ready.
All right. We'll do your sign-off first. What is it today? Kat is not basic. Like, I got basic stuff. I probably need to think about something new, but it is sort of the show theme. So I don't know.
I still have, it's so funny. Like, I still have not found, and there's so many profound, like, Prince lyrics and quotes that speak to me.
Yes.
But I just love
Kat,
the
I feel
woman
like we need a
quotes.
whole series on Prince quotes.
That's
what I hear. That's what I just heard. I heard next
One
episode.
nerd out. That's not the
Prince
plus
nerd out.
sides. You know, maybe we could do a spin-off in Kat's Prince obsession, you know.
I'm cool with that. Let's spin it off.
Janine will join. Talk about
We do have
Janine's
a
lock of
playlist.
hair.
We do have a Kat playlist, though, on the YouTubes. If you'll go there, Kat has her own playlist. Janine has her own playlist. So you can go and check it out. And we can definitely butt stuff with Kat. And we can do this too.
My hamstrings are so sore. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so tell me the quote.
You want my quote? Okay.
Don't let me hang in.
It's pretty cool. I like it. When I believe in something, I'm like a dog with a bone. Melissa McCarthy.
I love it. That's for sure how I feel about all this. Yeah. It is for sure how I feel about all this. Yeah, I love Melissa McCarthy.
Like a dog with a bone.
I tell you, if I found out she was on a GLP1, I would stalk her ass. Like, I would be like, you need to come on the show. Rosie came on the show. Come on the show. All right. But regardless, I do love her. She's hilarious. Yeah.
I have 7. I think her puppies.
Oh, yes.
I have 7 puppies. I may have taken more than I can. I have.
I took 7. That's what
Hold
she
on.
says. I
That's
took
what it is.
7.
Do you
Yeah.
smell this? Oh, my hamstrings are so sore.
Oh,
There's steam
no.
coming from my undercarriage. I was trying
Oh,
to put
yeah.
my leg up, but I
Your
can't do it.
undercarriage? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
From
my
bridesmaids.
hamstrings are
Yeah.
so sore. I can't do
We
it.
can't do it. Darn.
I'm
It
done.
hurts. They're so sore.
What
I'm
about
done.
you, Janine? What's your classic sign off?
You know, I probably need to get a new one, but this one just resonates so well. You know, it's
Makes
a
sense.
marathon and not a sprint.
Nope. You got to find the one from your grandpa. You said it on one episode, and I can't remember which one it was. It was something about the strength to endure, and it was the same
Was
way we
it the
say it.
The
pebble?
race,
The pebble and the.
yeah, the race is not given to the swift, but to those that endure.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
it. That was it. Because when you said it that one time, I was like, "Don't forget it." It was so good. That's the one. That's good. Well,
My
I need to
mom
think of some
says
new
it
ones
too.
too. But for tonight, it's definitely going to be "You're Not Alone." Clearly, right? And it's not your fault. Clearly. Like all these people with stories and all of these doctors going, "Yep, that's why that makes sense." Like you're not. It's
I
not your
know.
fault. And there's medicine now. You don't have to be afraid to go to your doctor anymore, and you can feel empowered by leveraging the content here, leveraging the content from our community, so that you feel educated and empowered to be able to advocate for yourself now. So you're just it's everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay,
Yeah.
And it's just been great having you here with us. We will see you next week. Hasta la pasta.
Hasta la pasta. Oh.
Oh, gotta dance.
Ooh.